I'm thrilled you're here. I was actually, with the rain and stuff, I wasn't quite sure what if anyone was going to show. We've got a number of people who couldn't be here today prior to the rain. So we've got people from Messiah's Past. Do you remember Barb and Mike Johnson?
Yeah.
Barb headed up the moms group early on. So they're interested, and Rick and Leanna Farrow, who just moved to Wisconsin, are interested, and so
Rick and Susie Snyder.
Rick and Susie Snyder.
Yeah.
Awesome.
She texted me this morning. She said she's going to Zoom.
Okay, fantastic. So so we've got a Zoom. We're also getting it recorded, and so let's go ahead and start with a word of prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this day. We are certainly mindful with the rain and the potential for flooding and people's lives being disrupted. We just pray for safety for all your people, and we pray for those also in Hawaii who are still struggling from recovering from the tragedy there. But we thank you now for this time to talk about an amazing place on your planet, the place where you actually walked among us, and just ask that you would guide us in the decisions that we make to if this is the right trip for us. In your name we pray. Amen. So, did everybody get a...
No.
Here is a sheet.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
and before you go, if you make sure that just put your name and email down, as I was saying, maybe it's age, but at the end of this, by the end, 2 days later, I'm going, who was at that meeting? Going, I remember they were sitting right there. Who was it?
Sometime.
Yeah, sometime. So this is going to be my third time to the Holy Land. It'll be Jeannie's second. We took a group back in 2013, I think it was, of Messiah folks. We had an amazing experience. And this time we're adding an excursion or extension to the trip, which is to go and see Petra in Jordan. I'm going to kind of walk through a PowerPoint with you just to give you some information, and then I can answer specific questions that you have. So the scheduled date is June 15th to the 28th. You can make some adjustments on the far end if you didn't want to do the Jordan piece. That would cut about 3 or 4 days off of the trip, and it would also cut the price. And I've got price lists for everybody too. So today we're going to talk about why the Holy Land, the places we're going to go, who we're traveling with, what's included, and how to make your book. So why the Holy Land? As I was saying in church today, Jeannie and I've been to about 26, 27 countries. My goal in life is to get to 50, halfway there. But a lot of times people say, well, what's your favorite place? I can't even answer that question anymore, because every place that we go is so unique and so different and offers something. But what I will say about the Holy Land is that it is the most transformative place that I've been. And it ranks right up there with the experience Jeannie and I had last year on the Camino in terms of some transformative experiences. This, however, is unique in that you're actually going to those very places that we've read about our whole lives, we've heard about, and it changes kind of how you see them. I remember on my first trip getting up early one morning, and we were staying in an operating kibbutz, and we were right on the Sea of Galilee, and it was just this beautiful sunrise, and I got up early, and I walked out and waded into the Sea of Galilee, and it was just the most unbelievably peaceful moment of my life. And to think that this is where Jesus walked on water, this is where he stilled the storm. All those things that happen around that place were just truly amazing. And then when we went to the upper room in Jerusalem, place where whether it's the actual upper room is debatable, but they believe it was at least the correct location. And to share Holy Communion there. We had the most interesting experience. We had a Jewish guide who was just marvelous. His name was Ziv. And Ziv had been doing this for 20 years. And he was knowledgeable of Islam, he was knowledgeable of Christianity and Judaism. And so we went to the upper room, and it was, the environment when I'd been there before was very crowded and lots of tourists, and many of the groups were loud and rather obnoxious, thinking as if they were the only ones in this space, and people singing loud. And on one hand I get, praising God, but also other people wanted a more intimate experience. So I was sharing with our group that, when we go there, I'm not sure about whether we'll do communion actually inside or outside, but I want to find a place where we can kind of enjoy. Well, we happened to go there on a Sunday morning, and we were the only people in there. And our guide wanted to buy us the bread. And so I had some wine, he got us some bread, at a little shop right near there. And we have this beautiful communion service. And as we're finishing it up, you kind of look around, we're just a circle and people were giving communion to each other. And we looked around and you could see people's eyes kind of darting back and forth like, what's going on here? You could feel something in this room. And there was this stillness, and we finished communion and nobody wanted to move. And then I ended up taking a picture, and in this picture, there's no colored stained glass or anything, but in this room there's this bronze olive tree. It's kind of the only thing, like a statue. And there's something projected on there that looks like it's a flame. No other pictures I have any of the trip, anywhere in there, have this. So we're just finishing up, and our tour guide says, what just happened in there? And I said, oh, well, that was communion. And he goes, no. He goes, I've done thousands of communion services. What just happened in there? I've never felt that before. So I mean, I can't guarantee that for, but it was just, there's something that was sacred and holy about the experience. So why the Holy Land? It's a beautiful country. It's a great place to visit. The sites that we'll see, we will learn not only about Christian sites, we'll learn about Jewish sites, we'll learn about sacred sites to Islam, the Dome of the Rock, the big gold dome. It's on the Temple Mount. That's a sacred place for Islam. When we go to Haifa, there's a chance that we'll visit the Baha'i Gardens, it's where the prophet for the Baha'i faith is buried. And it says that that's one of the places, but in my research, I've just recently read that they've closed it to the public. So I'm not sure as of like this August or July. So I'm not quite sure what that means. But this is primarily about our faith, but it's also about a variety of cultures. So why the Holy Land? You truly experience the Bible coming to life in a Holy Land tour. Experience of being in certain ways, I believe, closer to God. You connect with biblical stories in a timeline, much more personal way. Understand the Bible with improved clarity. You learn about the roots of Christianity. Taste some amazing food. The hummus is to die for. I'm a big hummus fan. Experience many natural wonders such as the Dead Sea, Galilean mountains, desert landscapes, beaches, Jerusalem mountains. Receive a heightened sense of spirituality, affirmation, faith, and a deeper connection to God. Enjoy a multifaceted experience that you can't find anywhere else in the world. Combinations of religion, history, landscape, cultures, food, people offer deep and engaging opportunities to connect with the country. Live and learn authentically to receive an understanding of modern life and history that you can't experience any other way, and feel the Spirit of God become alive. One of the beautiful things about the Holy Land, it's not very big. So you cover a lot of ground in a short period of time. And there are times where we've traveled in, other places, and it's like, it seems like you're driving forever. But you drive shorter distances, and you're getting out and you're experiencing these places that we've read about. We go to Jericho, and we don't know that it's the sycamore tree that Zacchaeus climbed up, but there's an old sycamore tree that dates back to that period of time, and to hear that story. All the places we'll go. So this is Caesarea, the ocean there, and this is the Dome of the Rock. Jaffa, when we fly into Tel Aviv, which is not too far from Jerusalem, but Jaffa is the old port at the edge of town. And it is the place where it's believed Jonah started his trip to Tarshish. And so, and there's some beautiful spots. The tower in the back is one of the, I believe that's the church of St. Peter, which remembers when Peter brought Tabitha back to life. We'll go to Caesarea. This is Caesarea on the sea. There's a Caesarea Philippi also. And there's Herod had like a whole castle complex here, and there's a stadium there. It's just very beautiful. Haifa, this is the Baha'i Gardens that there's a chance we will go see. We'll go to Nazareth, the Church of the Annunciation. This is Nazareth, where Mary is from, and this is to see the place where it said that the angel came to her and told her that she was going to have the Christ child. And then there's to the side of this, there's some excavation of places that are believed to maybe have been some of the disciples' houses, or it's certainly, if not theirs, it would be something very similar. And the Sea of Galilee, this was a picture we took. We had a sunset cruise on it was on a replica fishing boat. It was enlarged, but we went out and had a cruise on that. And they were showing us actually how they would cast their nets to catch fish. One of the very powerful moments, I think, is being at the River Jordan. And we don't know the place exactly where Jesus was on the river when he was baptized. But to be baptized in that place, in that water, the very waters that Jesus was in, is very powerful. And as Lutherans, we have an understanding, we baptize infants, and we believe that it's God's work, and we only get baptized once. So I don't want to say rebaptized, but remembering your baptism. And if you want to say rebaptized, I'm good with that. Yeah.
So my girlfriend's never been baptized.
Well, we could baptize her. We could do it for real.
She went to a 9-month course with the Baptist Church, but
well, we could do the real thing there.
Okay.
And that'd be very cool. And so one of my highlights there was my older brother Billy, who when we went before, he had a business of leading tours, and so he put the tour together. And he's not a person who has an overwhelming desire to be connected to faith stuff. And so when we got there to this site, there's a place where you can you rent a robe and so that and a towel and stuff. And I thought my brother would just go and do some paperwork or something. And I turn around and he's got a robe and a towel. And I look at him and I go, "What's that for?" Like really sensitive, Yeah. And he goes, "Well, I wouldn't miss the opportunity for you to baptize me." I was like, "Oh, man." So that was a really special bonding. But it's a very, you can see in Carol's eyes just kind of the intensity of that moment. Masada is a fascinating place. Masada is out in the desert, It's a couple hours outside of Jerusalem. This is an excursion that we will take. It's an add-on to the package of the tour, but it's included in the cost. We had an option of a free day in Jerusalem, or we could do this. And Masada was a castle, a fortress that Herod had made, and then there was the Jewish-Roman War. I believe it was in about 70 AD, and the Jews were under siege. The Romans were attacking them. They were living in this city on the hill, and the Romans were actually building a ramp up this hill to come overtake them. And then the Jews didn't want to be overtaken, and they had a suicide pact that they made. And so basically, most of them were killed. If I remember correctly, there were a few people that survived who were hiding in the water systems there. But we take a cable car up to the top of that. And then on that day, we also will stop at the Dead Sea, which is just quite an experience. It is literally so salty, because the Dead Sea, it's called Dead Sea because there's no outlet, and so nothing can live in it, and you literally cannot sink. If you just like sit down, it will just pop up and float. It's the most amazing feeling. It's also very, you don't want to get the water in your eyes because it burns like crazy. And then they have like mud baths you can do and spirit. It's really quite an experience. The Temple Mount. So the Temple Mount is where the temple was built. It's been torn down, built up. We'll see that. This is taken from the Mount of Olives, and it's a beautiful view of the city, and it kind of overlooks the Kidron Valley, which there's the floating in the Dead Sea. Of course, the computer starts to spin. Yeah, and then Petra also we will see. Petra is one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It dates back to 312 BC and is considered one of the oldest cities in the world, and so much more. So that's actually from looking out over the ocean, the Mediterranean.
Are most of these pictures you've taken?
Most of them are, yeah. So some of them are not. I didn't go to Petra, so. And then our travel partner, the company we use is called EF Tours. If you've had kids that have done travel with schools, there's a good chance that they have used EF. We use EF. Jeannie has been using them through Lutheran High exclusively for the last 10 years. They are the largest educational tour company in the world. And so one of the great things about EF is the multiple resources that they have. You know, you always hope when you're on a tour that nothing's going to go wrong. But we've had instances where somebody's lost their passport. That's not a good thing when you're in a foreign country. But when you're working with EF, they know exactly who to go to. They have other people on the ground, so the whole tour is not disrupted. We had someone lose their passport in Italy, and it took them 6 hours and they had a new passport. And EF sent someone to come get them, go to the embassy, and then brought them back to us. That also, if anybody has any health issues, they know, where to go, what to do, all of those things. And so we feel very safe traveling with EF. There are 1,001 Holy Land tour groups, and so EF is not it's a secular group, but this is a Holy Land tour. And so they will, give us a tour director who will meet us at the airport and will basically be with us until we get back on the plane. They're with us 24/7. They will have local guides. So often on tours like this, the tour director is incredibly knowledgeable of all of these places, but there are places where they're not allowed to lead the tour because they have a local tour guide that has to lead it. And so then we will have local tour guides, authentic food, so that's the guided sightseeing tours, those are the local tour guides. There are personal options for getting there, and again, you see the price list. EF will arrange our flights. If you want to use air miles, you want to extend your stay, or meet up there from a previous one, they can work with you on all that. We have one guy who's already signed up, and he's a pretty tall guy, and he goes, well, I want to go business class because I'm not trying to be snooty, I just want the comfort, and so they'll work with you on that. If you want to use your Sky Miles, they'll let you would make your own reservations, but you could work with them to make sure you're getting in at the right time and all that kind of stuff. So they're very easy to work with. The hotels, they're all 3 and 4 star. I would say that a 4-star hotel there is sometimes below a 3-star. So they're all clean, they're hand-picked, we haven't had problems. We'll have a nice bus, air-conditioned bus that we'll be traveling on. When you travel with Go Ahead Tours, and EF Go Ahead Tours are they're actually the adult tour version of EF. EF has a whole student component, and then they have a segment just for adults. We've got a lot of flexible itineraries. There's a few things that we've adjusted on it a little bit. I'm also working on, when we were there last time, there's an organization called the Parent Circle. And this Parent Circle is Palestinian and Israeli parents who've lost children in the conflict and the hatred. Now, when I first heard of them, I thought that these would be soldiers that had been killed, but not necessarily. We had 2 men come speak to us, and they were parents of young daughters. And the Palestinian, who had spent time in Israeli prison, because when he was young and the Israelis were coming into his town, he was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at the Israelis and spent, I think, 7 years in prison. He had a little girl who was 10 years old, and she had stepped out of her schoolyard into the street, and it was not a time of particular conflict. It was not war raging or something between them. And an Israeli soldier shot her from 300 meters and killed her. And the Jewish man was a professor and had a print shop, I think it was. And he had a 15-year-old daughter, and it was the day before her high school was going to start again, and she was at the mall, and a suicide bomber blew up, and she was killed. And so both of these cultures are raised with such unbelievable hatred towards the other. And there's a group of people who said, this isn't going to get us anywhere, One more dead soldier, one more dead child isn't going to make us even. We'll never be even. And the tears of a Jewish woman and the tears of a Palestinian mother, they're the same tears. And so they found their common humanity. And these 2 men had become best of friends. And it was interesting because they came and met us at our hotel. And my hope is that we can get this set up again with 2 representatives from this group. And it was actually our last night in Jerusalem. It was the last night of the tour. We were tired. And I said, you guys, I got something at 7 o'clock. I really would like you there. And they're like, are you kidding me? It was all said and done. this turned out to be the overall highlight of the group. They spoke to us for 2 hours. And by the time they were done, there was not a dry eye in the house. And to see how people with such different worldviews could come together. They had become best friends. They were uncles to each other's children. They were just, it was amazing. So I'm trying to also arrange that. So, and that was so important for us, really starting to understand the power in these cultures, not just biblically, but currently. The group, we have 35 spaces, counting Jeannie and I and Jay. So 32 spaces. They're easy to work with, 55 years of experience. You know, they're, for what we get, you know, it's a good price. What is included? Hand-picked hotels. Breakfast every single day is included with that before we leave the hotel. And then there are some dinners that are included, and some are on our own. The tour directors, local guides, pre-book tickets. So if you've ever been traveling and, like, let's say you go to the Vatican and you're not on a tour, good chance you're going to wait 3 hours in a line. So we avoid that because all those things are done at flexible transportation, flexible flight options, 24/7 on tour support. That's what I was talking about. If there's any kinds of struggles, problems, in-house customer experience service team, they've been very responsive to any needs that we've had. What you're responsible for, tips. What we'll probably do is, we've done in the past, is we figure out what the tip amount is on the trip. I ask everybody to write a check to Messiah. This way, we're not having to everybody give $5 to a guide here, $10, you know, figure out what, it makes it cleaner and easier. And then at the end of the tour, we'll give the tip to the bus driver, we'll give the tip to the tour guide, and then I'll parse out the tips to the local guides. Additional excursions already, not already included in our trip. Occasionally we have an evening off. You may want to do, they offer sometimes like go and have dinner at the home of a Jewish family or something like that. I didn't want to book every single night. I think people need some downtime. If it's not included, so the excursions that are included, there's 2. That is the Masada and then the extension to Petra. Some meals, lunches will be on our own. Sometimes there'll be a quick grab that, we're just stopping between travel points. Other times we'll have time. We're in the city of Jerusalem, walking around the different quarters. There may be time on that day for having your own lunch. Daily spending money, that's really up to you. Some people, we had one person who went with us last time, and she couldn't pass a souvenir stand without, she had to buy a extra suitcase for the trip home, and other people, I'm at the point with travel where I don't need more trinkets. It's got to be something really pretty meaningful for me to pick up now. But there's some beautiful things on there. When we go to Bethlehem, there's some beautiful olive wood carvings and things. And the nice part about a lot of that is that's the livelihood. And seeing the struggle for the Palestinians, who Bethlehem is occupied territory. Many of the people in Bethlehem can't actually leave Bethlehem without permission or pass. It's a walled city. And when we drove in before, our tour guide, who was Jewish, was not allowed to go in. He had to get out. We had a security check with soldiers, machine guns, checking under the bus, everything. We drove in, and then a Palestinian guy got in. And the Palestinian told us that his wife had not left Bethlehem, something like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's just really fascinating to see this culture. Fees for additional or overweight baggage, and then passports. Currently, there's no COVID restrictions, so to go. And then, so this is where we will be going. So we'll start flying to Tel Aviv. We will go up to Haifa, and Caesarea area there. Go across the Nazareth. We'll stop at the wedding chapel where the dedication of Jesus turning the water into wine. Go up to Lake Tiberias, also known as the Sea of Galilee. And up there's Capernaum, and so there we see the Sermon, or the Mount where the Mount of the Beatitudes, where the Sermon on the Mount was, where Jesus fed the 5,000. And then we'll come back down. We actually go to Jericho, and then we're going to go down to Masada. So that's that's going to be an extension for us. And then we're going to go to Jerusalem, spend some time in Jerusalem, 3 or 4 days there, and then come across and go over to Jordan. So, and then the travel documents. You need a passport. You have to make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months after the date of reentry. So it's got to be good for 6 months after the 28th of June next year. Visas, medical documents. We don't have to get advance visas. Any medical documents that you want to bring. Those are things that you might want to have. And it's probably not bad to bring proof of vaccination if you have it, but at this point it's not required. We've also included in the cost the number 2 trip protection. It's like $495. That covers $50,000 in medical expense and tour cancellation. If you cancel, and I'll give you all this, tour cancellation, the second one gives you for any reason, if you need to cancel your tour, you can refund your money. I was supposed to go to Cuba a number of years ago. With a different organization, and they didn't offer any kind of protection or coverage. And my mother-in-law got sick, and I decided not to go, and I lost $5,000. It was the right decision, but that still stunk. So this way, you would get your money back, and it provides you also with additional medical coverage. It also, if you were to lose your baggage, it will help you with that and cover expenses for travel delays and accidents. And so then, how to reserve your spot. So here is the price sheet. And you'll notice that there's things that are asterisks on there. And so,
Pastor Bob?
yeah.
2 more?
Oh, there you go.
I was going to get one for Gary.
Oh, okay.
Gary and one for. This is good.
Okay. The cost for the land tour in just Israel, that's that first number, $35.59. If we're hoping people will want to go on the Petra one, but some people will say either, oh, did you get one? You got a price?
Yeah.
Okay. Some people will say, that just pushes my budget a little too far, or I really don't have 2 weeks, I could probably get 10 days, that would work. So you don't have to do the Petra one, but it is included in the final cost. This includes airfare out of LAX, just basically, coach airfare. You can upgrade that and work with EF Tours for that. This number here, this is all flying out of LAX. So we do have some people up in the Washington area that are thinking about coming, and if they come, they're either going to fly to LA and go with us, or that number would get adjusted. So if you have family or friends who want to go, you can let them know that that's included in the cost. There's private bus fees. If we need a minimum of 14, if we have over 20, the bus fee is dropped, because the amount that it costs them to have the bus, that's their break even point.
35.
So
Is there a maximum number?
35.
35.
35.
Yeah. And then the Masada excursion that I talked about, and we'll visit a Bedouin camp, and I believe that's where we'll have our lunch that day, and we'll go to the Dead Sea that day. That's included. And then as I said, the private bus fee, and I thought the coverage, I apologize, that was supposed to be included in here. So it's about $495.
What was that again?
The coverage, the
For the
medical
coverage.
and stuff coverage, that's $495. It was mistakenly left off of there.
So where does that go?
It would just go in your bottom line, so you can add that. You can take the smaller coverage, but it doesn't give you as much flexibility. It's like $100 less, and you don't have as much freedom to cancel. It's one of the questions too. I forgot to mention. Some people ask, "Is it safe?" Israel is the holy land for 3 different religions. And yes, there's always this kind of angst and tension between them. But for the most part, the religious sites, they want to steer clear of any kind of fighting, because tourism is, for all of them, it's their main industry. And you often will hear on the news, and you will see, protests and things like that going on. And they stay as far away from those kinds of situations as possible. Again, another reason to go with EF. If there ever is anything that would put us in danger, for instance, you remember the bombings that happened in France a number of years ago, and the shootings, and it was just terrible. EF had students that were there in Paris, and within 12 hours they had all of their tours out of the city of Paris and relocated and readjusted. So, we feel that it's safe. I've had a lot of friends who over the last year have traveled to Israel and had just wonderful experiences. So that's one of the questions a lot of people ask. So, so that bus fee will get dropped if we have 21 people, because it's covered by the whole group. If you want a single room, there's the additional fees down at the bottom. This is double occupancy. So $1,030 for the Israel part and $420 for the Jordan part. So
What is that for one night or how many nights?
for Jordan,
Oh,
that'd be for all. That's cumulative for
Oh.
all of it. That'd just be an add-on to the
okay.
7,400. So, and so the EF offers a $100 discount for people that sign up before August 31st. Every September, EF does a reevaluation of their tour costs. So September 1, the cost is going to go up with the tour, and they couldn't tell me quite how much. We've usually seen it between $200 to $400. And I'm not trying to sound like a used car salesman, if you don't buy today. But that's just, we're just running up against their annual increase, so.
Can you explain the difference between the price with required items and the price including recommended items?
Okay, the price with required items. So that is the $359, the $250, the bus, and the $175. Okay.
So these are the options.
So you have an option of going to Jordan, and you have an option of getting your own airfare.
So neither of those are included in the minimum.
So yeah, they're included in the recommended items, and then you would also add the 400 or 500, 495, whatever it is for the additional coverage.
The trip insurance.
Yeah, trip insurance.
Cancel for any reason.
Yeah.
What kind of currency would you use for tipping?
Pardon me?
What kind,
Currency.
what,
Well, what we'll do is we generally use American dollars.
I mean, even when you're shopping locally?
Oh,
or-
so,
Visa, you use a credit card.
we use a lot of credit cards, unless you're doing a small, some of the littler ones. And then
What is our currency called?
Shekel.
I mean,
I forgot.
should you have some with you?
I should probably, yeah. But I forgot what their currency is called. Is it shekels? Okay, yeah. I just. We will get.
I know that the EU is requiring visas in 2024. I wonder if they are going to require visas also.
They haven't said anything about it. I will double check that. But they're very good about keeping us informed and that kind of stuff. So when we went before, we didn't have to get any pre-visa ahead of time. And one of the things too is the Israelis, the security that they provide, just in general, is absolutely astounding. And it's visible and invisible. The flights will probably have one layover in either Montreal, JFK, or somewhere like that. But we flew LL Airlines, which I don't know that we'll be flying that airline. And we went through 5 security checks before we even left LA. And those are the ones that we could see. And they have mandatory military service, and so their folks you see military around all the time. I remember we were at that kibbutz I was telling you about on the Sea of Galilee, and there was a family, a Jewish family, vacationing there. A very attractive young 19, 20-year-old young lady, and just, vacation attire, shorts, tank top kind of thing, with a machine gun sitting on her lap. Because when you are issued a gun, you keep it with you at all times, or you have to check it in with, if you're on vacation, you would have to check that in at the police department or something like that. But basically, it's a very different world than we're used to. But when we're at the Western Wall, which some people know as the Wailing Wall, you'll see military there. It's just fascinating to see an Orthodox Jew with his head up against the wall praying, and Israeli soldier with his guns over his shoulder, with his head against the wall praying right next to each other. And it's just very powerful, one of the things our guides will give us rich history of the area, from their own personal knowledge, from their own personal experience. And then Pastor Jay and I, we're also going to incorporate into many of the sites a kind of devotional time where, like when we're at the Sermon on the Mount, we'll get the history from them, but the more theological kind of bent to it, reflecting on Jesus' words on the Sermon on the Mount. We'll do kind of little mini Bible studies along the way. Not every place, because that can get just too much. So any other questions?
Are there places that we would go where you have to have, just out of respect for whatever, head coverings or?
There are, and they will let us know that, covering our, the arms and things. Men, there, when we go to the, when we're going to the western wall, you have to wear a head covering. And they have little paper ones that you could have. And the western wall is very interesting because there's two sections. There's one for men and one for women. And you will also notice if you look, there's a bridge, or like a ramp, that goes up to the top of the Temple Mount. And that's to actually get to the top of the temple, which is Islamic. And that's something, it's not...
Can you go up there?
Yeah, you
Oh.
can. And that's something that I definitely want to do this time. That would be a free time activity. And people have gone and done it. Jeannie and I just hadn't done that. We're doing other things. There's some other places that in free time that people may want to consider going. And we'll do our best to kind of organize that and give people those options. But one is called the Garden Tomb. So the most historical sites for the crucifixion are in the walled city of Jerusalem, the crucifixion in the tomb. But there's an unearthed site just outside the walls of the city, and there's a lot of debate over it, but it makes a lot of sense to me. There's a hill that is on one of the main roads coming in and going out of Jerusalem. And it is supposedly a site where they did a lot of executions, crucifixions. And it was a visible site so that people would see this, kind of both humiliation and keeping people in line. And if you kind of squint and you look at the rock formation that is there, you could see almost the image of a skull. And the word Golgotha actually means the skull hill. So some argue that that is the more accurate location of the crucifixion. And right next to that, they unearthed a tomb that was cut into the stone. And so this area is called the Garden Tomb. And there's a stone that's, rolled away. You can actually walk into that tomb. Whether that is the actual tomb that Jesus rose from, I don't know. But there's a lot of power in knowing that it was probably something like that. And for me, it seemed to be more impactful than the more historical, traditional site. When we go to Nazareth, when we go to Bethlehem, go to the place where it's believed that Jesus was actually born. There's a church there, and the church is shared between three different faiths: Greek Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestants. And it's the testimony to the negative side of human history. These of human nature. These three don't get along. A few years back, the police had to be called because the priests were fighting inside the church. But then we go up to the Shepherd's Hill and see some of the caves where very likely it was where the shepherds were visited, and overlook the city of Bethlehem.
So those are all extra things that.
No, those are all included.
Oh, they
That's
are?
all included.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that'll be in our trip to.
I just had a quick
Yeah.
question. What's included in the tour? Is that hotels or?
Yeah, included in the tour, all your hotels,
Yeah.
all your breakfasts,
Okay.
some dinners, tour bus, tour guides.
And what's the reason for the hotel?
The hotels, so if,
I thought you wanted something special.
so no, if those are,
less than 20
so
people.
say a single person is going and they don't want to share a room.
Oh, okay.
So this price includes double occupancy
Oh,
up here.
okay.
So that's
That's just-
the extra for 12, 13 nights of a single room versus a double.
Cruises
Okay.
called signal supplement charge.
The signal
Yeah,
supplement.
Like if you just go yourself on a cruise, you
Right.
generally pay more than if you have two people in a
Yeah.
cabin.
And if somebody's going as a single, but they're willing to share a room, then you don't have to add, you say I'm open to sharing a room, and you can talk with EF about that. So,
How about the cost of airport transfers to getting from the airport to the hotel, back and forth?
at that end, they will pick us up.
Okay,
That's all
when you
included.
arrive, they get you to your hotel,
Yep.
and vice versa?
Yep. And
But what if you went a day early?
then
You on you?
you could work with them. There's a window where they will charge you $25 a person to do that. A window of flight time, because that's when the tour director is going to be there. If not, they will help you arrange it to get from the airport to, and you fly into Tel Aviv, and that's our first stop is Tel Aviv.
So in your mind's eye, do you have an idea of how many people that you think are interested in going with you?
I've actually been quite surprised. I was hoping that we would have 20 interested. So looking at this group, right now I'd say we probably have about 35 or 40 people who've expressed interest. But expressing interest and, paying $8,000 to go are two different things. But most of those are people who really haven't flinched too much at the price. And a couple people who have traveled there said that they felt like this was more than reasonable. Yeah, you can find tours that are a lot more expensive, I'm sure. I'm sure you can find some discounted tours. But we feel like the quality that EF provides is worth the expense. Yeah.
How many hotel changes do you think you make during a trip like that?
Not that many.
Because it's a small area. I mean, you don't just stay in one?
So like when we're in Jerusalem, we'll be in Jerusalem in one hotel. So, and I think I think we're there for 4 nights, 3 or 4 nights. And then in Galilee, or Lake Tiberias, I think we're there 2 or 3 nights. So there's not a whole, you're not going to pack up every single day.
On a couple of tours that we've done before, like they tell you, like, have your bags outside your door at 6 a.m. type thing. So do they load your stuff onto the bus for you, or
So,
you're in charge of that?
What has always been our situation is that we'll say we're leaving at 8 in the morning and have your bags down there at 7:45. So you haul your bag down. But for most people have their bags on wheels now, so that's not too much of an inconvenience. Yeah. And obviously anybody that needed assistance or help. And I know that, like I said, I got probably 5 or 6 messages of people that couldn't be here today who have said, we're really interested in going. Yeah.
So what's the language situation or barrier? Is it predominantly English? I mean, can you go off by yourself and be comfortable?
Yeah. So many of the people there speak English.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to communicate with. Tourism is their big thing, and a lot of people who live there have lived in the U.S. too. You have a lot of Jewish people who have actually relocated there. So, yeah.
Can we expect oppressively hot in June?
When we go to Masada and to Petra, those places could be hot. The thing with Petra is also that when Petra involves about a 2-mile round trip walk, and it can be very warm. They have told me, and again I haven't been to Petra, they told me that when you get to the site, if that walk is a problem, that there is potential to arrange some kind of transportation to the actual Petra site. Yeah. Masada is hot. When we were there, it was very hot.
So what's up?
105.
Like, 100 and dry, I would say. But you're not doing any, you're not hiking up there. You could, people do, we're not. You're not hiking up that giant hill, so you're taking a tram up and a tram down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it can be, Jerusalem, we found it to be, there was some humidity when we were there, but it wasn't, it was 80s,
Is that their summer season?
Yeah, that's when we've gone. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you mentioned 3 and 4 star accommodations. Is there a way to kind of have, a closer idea of what that entails? Is that like on their website? Would they?
What I would do is I would call them up and just talk to them about it. And now we didn't go to Israel with EF, but the places, one of the places that we stayed at in Tel Aviv, I saw on their site in their reviews that people had stayed at that hotel, what was it, the Pan American or something like that in Tel Aviv, and it was a very nice hotel. I mean, it would be like kind of like a Marriott type thing. And then when we stayed at the kibbutz, it was more like going to a lodge on a lake, nothing fancy, clean, and I don't know that that's where we would be staying in here, but most of them are, I mean, they especially with adults, they care. When we're traveling with kids, they are lower end, they're safe, they're clean, but they're a lower end, and you've got 4 kids, and when you're doing youth travel, you're doing everything you can to keep your costs down, and you got 4 to a room, and so, but yeah, and most every place should have internet service.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning, yeah. So, but it's worth, if you want to give them a call, and they're very, very helpful. Their customer service is very good. So, any other questions?
Hey, we watched a Netflix special recently that had a comedian who's Italian talking about his Jewish wife. And he said, you never go to a cocktail party and hear somebody say, hey, I was just at the greatest Jewish restaurant in the world. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I don't think so. It's Mediterranean food.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
if like one of the, like I was joking about the hummus. I literally love hummus.
Me too.
And at the hotels that we were at, most of them had punch bowls in the morning with hummus. And Jeannie's like, Mom.
That's not just for you.
Bob, get out of the bowl.
That's exactly right. It's louder. But we found that the food was fresh. The food was really tasty. Gyros, those sandwiches. Very good. A lot of Mediterranean rice. The fish is good. So.
What would breakfast look like?
The breakfasts that we've had in the hotels, they were quite expansive buffets generally.
Okay.
We found, at least at the ones we were at before, the breakfasts were far better than our European breakfasts. That
Mostly bread.
yeah, croissant, coffee, and maybe some fruit. But generally, these breakfasts have been much in Jerusalem, especially. I pretty much think everywhere.
You'd be inclined to see American-style big chain restaurants there?
I don't recall seeing them there, but we spent most of our time more like in the walled city of Jerusalem, like when we were there. So we didn't spend like, probably in Tel Aviv, you'll find KFC, chains like that.
So
you
no
know.
In-N-Out.
Not that we want to do
Yeah.
that.
No, but you know,
Why are you
But
even
we're-
asking?
yeah, on day 9, you're tired of Mediterranean food, and
Yeah.
you want a
you want a
steak?
burger? Yeah, you know. Yeah, I'm sure you can
St.
find it.
Louis style pork.
Yeah, I know.
but, You know.
Hey,
You know,
when I went with the high schoolers back in about 98, something like that, they had to stop for hamburger. They were like going to McDonald's or Hard Rock or like, and
Yeah.
it's like, really?
Yeah.
Ugh.
So
But, yeah.
I'm sure that there are, you know, in the more outlying area, not in the more historical sites. I know when we go to Dubai on our way to Africa,
The contrast.
it cracks me up because you're driving down the street and you see Burger King, KFC. I'm like, really? Here? So, yeah. So you could probably find whatever you want. Any other questions? Well, feel free to call me. Feel free to call the
Is your phone
website.
number on here?
It's probably not on there, but 714
Huh?
325 6066. That's my cell. And the website, you can. This is.
If it's on here, it will.
Now, on the top it says, price quote was the 4th, it's valid through the 18th.
This is valid. This is valid through. This is valid through October 30th.
Yeah, that's-
August
August
31st. Yeah.
6066.
So,
325 6066.
606.
Yeah, 6066.
So.
and if you want to just take a picture, this is the you can take a picture of this website, and that takes you right to our tour.
It's at the bottom in green.
Yeah, it's there. It's the bottom one here in green on the front page.
Look,
Down there.
So Bob, when you said that if you're traveling single, then if there isn't somebody single in the group, then do they pair you with somebody from another group?
We're the only group. So
All right.
this is a private tour.
Okay.
So it's only, I'll say only Messiah people, but that doesn't mean that all those people go to Messiah.
Right.
They're all connected to me or Jay somehow, or one of you. So this isn't like, you know, people from New York who want to go to the Holy Land
Yeah.
are just looking to connect with a trip. So, yeah. So, but around those kinds of questions, I would just call them and say,
Okay.
you know, so I'm willing to share a room.
Yeah.
What if there's no other single
Right.
available? What's the deal? So, yeah.
And what are beds usually like? Are they doubles, queens, kings, beds?
We've had, generally they were like queens. Occasionally we had two doubles pushed
I'll get
together.
people talking.
So, yeah.
Is it an adult-only tour?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a high school kid or something that wanted to go, that'd be great. But yeah, this isn't.
Because it is summertime.
Yeah, but it's we had a 8th grader or 7th to 8th grader with his parents on the last one, and he was delightful. So yeah, I mean, would be open to somebody coming, but we're not billing this as a
Yeah.
high school tour. So
Has Pastor Jay been before?
no, this will be his first time. So yeah. So, well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
So much,
Thank you.
and I look forward to answering any more questions.
Is this PowerPoint going to be available?
Yeah, I will actually send this, I'll send you a PDF of this PowerPoint. Since I have clear information, that'll come out tomorrow. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.